Hello and welcome to the Irish Aesthete. Previously, we were looking at Athassel in County Tipperary, the site of a now ruined Augustinian Priory. Today, we are going further west to Connemara, to a site that was explored in the middle of the 19th century by Oscar Wilde's father, Sir William Wilde. From Sir William Wilde's Loch Corrib, its shores and islands, first published in 1867. Among the splendid ecclesiastical remains of Cong, the 12th century advocates may revel and defy us to prove an earlier date for their erection than that of the introduction of the Augustinian order into Ireland, even if their ornamentation and design did not afford ample data for judging their age. These ruins would scarcely have held together to the present day had not Sir B. L. Guinness restored several of the dilapidations, cleared out much of the rubbish which had accumulated within and around them, and rendered the burial ground sufficiently decent for the interment of Christian people. We enter the Abbey from the village by a very beautiful doorway, which, although it has often been figured, we would here present to our readers, but that we know it is of the composite order, having been made up some years ago of stones taken from another arch in this northern wall. Within it we find ourselves in the great Abbey church, 140 feet long, entirely paved with tombstones, facing the east window with its three long, narrow lights, and having in each side wall of the chancel a slender window looking north and south. The chancel walls are perfect, but the northern wall of the nave no longer exists. Underneath the chancel window, the guides and village folk maintain that Roderick O'Connor was buried, when, after 15 years' retirement within this abbey, he died here in 1198. But this we know from history to be incorrect, for the Donegal Annals distinctly state that Rory O'Connell, King of Connaught and all of Ireland, both the Irish and English, died among the canons of Cong after exemplary penance, victorious over the world and the devil. His body was then conveyed to Clonmacnoise and interred to the north of the altar. But although Roderick himself was not buried here in Cong, others of his name and lineage were. Thus we read that in 1224 Maurice the Canon, son of Roderick O'Connor, the most illustrious of the Irish for learning, psalm singing and poetical compositions, died and was interred at Cong. It is probable his tomb which is pointed out as that of the king. In AD 1226, Nuala, daughter of Roderick O'Connor and Queen of Ulidia, died at Cong and was honourably interred in the Church of the Canons. And in 1274, Fionnuala, daughter of King Roderick, died at and was probably buried at Cong. But although the dust of the last monarch is not beneath our feet, that of chieftains, warriors and prelates remains, and especially that of the abbots. The original plan of this abbey is not easily made out at present. Through an arched doorway in the southern wall, we pass into a low-vaulted apartment, and thence into a large open space containing the principal stairs, which lead up to the second story of the great tower, the upper portion of which, however, no longer exists. The space to the east and south of this, which was formerly occupied by the monastery, is now a graveyard and the site of the Roman Catholic chapel, and is divided by a high screen wall, the western facade of which forms the present great architectural feature of this splendid pile. It measures 80 feet in length and contains a doorway and two windows, with circular arches, and two large and most elaborate ornamented lancet-headed doors, with undercut chevrons along the deep moulding of the arches, which spring from clustered pillars, the floral capitals of which, all of different patterns, present us with one of the finest specimens of 12th century stonework in Ireland. Several stones have been inserted in these doorways, which now present us with some of the finest, most enduring specimens of carved limestone in this or any other country. Above the string course appear some narrow lights, probably those of the dormitories. To the west of this wall stood the open cloisters, which were probably so low as not to obscure the decorated front. From this point, the ground slopes gradually to the river, where, according to tradition, the friars of old had a fish house, the walls of which are still standing, so constructed that when the salmon or trout got into the crib, it touched a wire that rang a bell to inform the providore or cook of its arrival. And there we will leave Cong, County Mayo. In the next episode, we're travelling south to County Clare, where we'll explore another Augustinian priory, this time in the company of Thomas Johnson Westrop. I look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching The Irish Aesthete. Goodbye.